Welcome to the Warrior Legacy Network, where we cut through the noise and talk about what really happens when the uniform comes off. This is about veterans guiding veterans and great Americans who stand beside us, sharing lessons learned, mistakes made, and victories earned, so the next generation doesn't have to figure it out alone. The mission doesn't end with your DD-214, it just changes.
Well, welcome, Warriors. I am so excited to have this guest on. I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little intimidated because this guy is an absolute legend in the veteran podcasting community. My fellow devil dog, AJ Cox, and host of the what was the name of your cast again?
The Lost Art.
The Lost Art
with AJ
yes.
Cox. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. This is going to be great. It's always good to talk to you.
Likewise, and we've had a chance to work on a couple different projects throughout the years and talking about a couple different initiatives. And this new one, I'm just so excited to bring him in and kind of get his insight and background. But I guess, before we get started, tell us a little bit about your career in the Marine Corps and even before the Marine Corps. What did you do before you got in? Kind of what was that journey like? And then kind of give us an overview on what you did while you're serving our beloved Corps.
All right. So quick overview. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. Vian is the name of it. I grew up, small, very small. We had one four-way stop sign in the town. That's how big our town was. So it was a good time. I got in band and started playing music and had a blast doing that all through junior high school. Met my wife when I was in sixth grade there, and we've, been friends ever since. But we got married, or we started dating when I became a senior, or when she became a senior. She was 2 years ahead of me. But then we got married. I got married right out of high school. And we, of course, what do? Everyone preaches go to college. So we went to Oklahoma State University. And let's just say that was not my strong suit. I probably shouldn't have gone to college. I did learn a lot, musically speaking, because with the professor, getting those one-on-one lessons and just playing with the ensemble. So I learned a lot musically. But as far as an education, it didn't work out for me. So I dropped out. I did 3 semesters, dropped out, and then started working in a grocery store. And I was working ungodly hours, driving like an hour there and then an hour back type of thing. So it was very taxing. And at that point I was like, I got to do something different. And I was talking to the wife about the Marine bands, and she's like, why didn't you ever do that? And I was like, well, I don't know. I didn't think you'd be into it. So, shortly after that, I went in to see a recruiter and I said, hey, I want to join the band. And he about jumped out of his chair. He was so excited because, if you recruit a musician, you get double. So he was very excited about it. So I did an audition. They said, yep, you're good enough. And so I joined up, and man, it was good. It was good for me. It was good for me and the wife both. So of course, I went to MCRD San Diego.
We won't hold that against you.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Being a musician,
I'm Hollywood.
you have to be a Hollywood Marine, right?
Yeah, you gotta show out every now and again, be Hollywood. So, I did my time over there, and then of course went to the School of Music in Virginia, and that's where the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps all train musically. And then after that, my first unit was 29 Palms, California, out in the middle of the desert. It was a great time. Played drums, went all over the country, went into Canada playing. I mean, with tons of experience playing. I joined in 99. So from I got there late 99 to 29 Palms, and I was there for about 2 years.
So I got out in 99 right as you were coming in. So we kind of
no kidding. Wow.
As we were going over 29 Palms there.
Very cool. Yeah. And then let's see. I went from 29. I went to Okinawa, Japan, to the 3MEF band over there. Again, playing and just having a good time. Loving the atmosphere and everything that was happening over there. I went for a 1 year unaccompanied tour so my wife could come back to Oklahoma and finish her degree. She got her teaching degree in English. So that worked out. And then after that, I went to our advanced school back in Virginia. And then they sent me to 1st Marine Division. So 1st Marine Division is where I got to deploy with the division. We were in Ramadi at Camp Blue Diamond during that time. So it was a good experience. I'm glad I got the experience, but kind of sometimes wish I hadn't had got that experience. But, overall, it's helped me out in life. So it's positive. I'll look at it positive. And let's see, after that, I got promoted eventually to staff sergeant and picked up the drum major job. And when I picked up the drum major job, they had to move me. So they moved me down to MCRD San Diego, and I was the drum major there for that band for 2 years. Then I went drill instructor, did drill instructor there for 3 years. And then after that, went all the way to Camp Lejeune to be the drum major there. And got to go all over the world with them, went to France, went to, England. I mean, it was great. We got to go all over the place.
I see the picture up there of the Bella Woods fountain over
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Bella Wood back there. And then that picture there is me marching the band in front of the who is now the King of England. But he was the one taking the dais for that passing review. So it was really cool.
Wow.
And then at that point, they sent me up to the school to be a teacher. So I was the drum major teacher. And I did that for a couple years, got promoted out of that job to master sergeant. So they had to move me to 1st Marine Division back to Camp Pendleton. And I did 2 years there, got selected again. They moved me down to Miramar. So I was with the Air Wing, but I was only down there for 7 months. And they decided, hey, it's time to go back to the School of Music, which is where I went to finish up the career. So I was the senior enlisted there at the School of Music, the Marine detachment there.
Wow, what a career. Well, I can tell you, I appreciate it on multiple levels. My whole family's musicians except me. And my brother never in a million years thought he'd join the military. Everyone knew I was going to join the Marine Corps when I was like 5 or 6 years old, when I was running through the woods, spreading mud on my face and converting twigs and branches into machine guns and other stuff. And my brother was just out there practicing. He went to the School of Creative and Performing Arts, and then he went to Eastman School of Music, and then he got his master's at Rice. And as he was leaving Rice, a bunch of his buddies got a gig with the Air Force Concert Band. And he's like, I'll try this. And before you know it, he put in a full 20 years over at Bolling Air Force Base at the concert band, and just absolutely loved it. Had a wonderful career. So the military band definitely has a very special place in my heart.
Yeah, very sure. And the Air Force bands, you can't be a shabby player, man. Those guys are good. Good for him, man. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, it's funny because he graduated boot camp at E6 because he had his master's, and everybody else is either coming from one of the major orchestras or has their master's or PhD or whatever. And his drill sergeant was so furious that not only did Adam outrank him, but that he was going into the band on top of that. But
yeah, I can see that.
So the theme of this podcast and what we're working on now is the importance of mentorship. And before we really get into the nit and gritty of what the Warrior Legacy Network is all about, which is about helping veterans make that transition from active duty into the civilian world, talk to me about a couple of the mentors that you had along the way during your time in the Marine Corps.
Oh man, so many mentors. I think back to when I first came in and what a mentor meant to me as a young Marine. Somebody that was going to hold me accountable. That was part of it, right? And then 2, just being able to help guide me not only through the Marine Corps and what was happening as I was learning it, but also helping me guide my family through it, which making sure your home life is just, is good so your work life can be good type of thing. But man, I had so many mentors back then. There was one of the drum majors back then. It was Gleason was his last name. And then Beeman was another gunny that was back that way. And both of those guys just showed me what leadership was about, taking care of the individual, caring about them, showing that you care about them, being able to have those conversations, those one-on-ones, and then also not being scared to let you know when you messed up and, pushing you in the right direction, slapping you around. Well, maybe not slapping you around, but you know what I mean? Correcting those deficiencies, we'll say. But then, the further I go into my career, as I start getting promoted, now my mentorship starts to change in a sense. So it's no longer I'm the junior guy. I'm starting to get up there in rank. So the conversations become a little more in depth when it comes to leadership, when it comes to leading at a different rank, right? So those types of things were instrumental, right? I had like guys like Trenum, he was a fellow drummer as well. He was a drill instructor, and he had come off drill instructor duty. I was a sergeant. He was a staff sergeant. And he set me down all the time. And, when again, holding me accountable, but guiding me, giving me enough rope to get in trouble, and then being able to pull me back in and saying, hey, that wasn't the right thing to do. Go this way. But that mentorship never stopped my entire 25-year career. Toward the end, I had a guy, Master Gunnery Sergeant Boatwright was his name, and he was very instrumental. And he was very like meticulous. Everything had to be, it had its certain place and it's where it needed to go. And he was very time oriented and task oriented. And man, that taught me so much. But all along the way, every person that I served with taught me something when it came to leadership. And, I just can't thank everybody enough for all the times they poured into me. But leadership is incredibly important. And in my opinion, not only do you have to look at, I'm looking out for that one individual, but you also, when you're, senior, you're looking out for the whole unit as a whole. So sometimes the one individual's wants and needs and desires, you can't really give it to them. So you have to, make sacrifices on one end, for the other, and it's that give and pull and things like that. But mentorship's huge, and having what I call kneecap to kneecap conversations. And those are probably where you're going to get a lot of the growth between that mentor-mentee relationship the most. And I learned that from Boatwright. But you sit down, and that is kneecap to kneecap. That means, I'm sitting down, you're sitting down facing me, and we just start to have a conversation. And throughout that conversation, I'm able, as the mentor, I'm able to counsel you on some of the things that maybe some of the deficiencies, some of the things you do good, some of the things you do bad, whatever along the way. But you start a personal relationship as well. And you talk about those personal things like, hey, what's your favorite sports team? What's this? And you just kind of build on that relationship. And having those on a regular basis, I remember like back when you were in, right, it was you were required to counsel non-NCOs once a month. You had to sit down and do a counseling form and all that type of stuff. It's the same principle. It's just me sitting down with somebody once a month and just saying, hey, how you doing? How's things? And helping them, guide them through their career and their family life and all those types of things. But
so some of my favorite movies of all time, Star Wars, Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather, and I was always interested that they all had a very similar theme. And the theme was you had somebody that was in a different realm, a different world. They cross a threshold into this new realm. They meet this mentor. The mentor kind of guides them, and then they become the mentor. Luke Skywalker goes from being the young, Padawan to becoming the Jedi Master and teaching everybody else. Same thing in Godfather. Same thing in Shawshank, where he meets, Old Red. And then when they come back to the realm that they started, back to that civilian realm, they have that magic elixir. They have something unique and different that they can share with them. What I found during this process, and I'd love to get your take on it, is really understand what you've done in your journey when you were the mentor and not the mentee. And I want to write down I wrote down a couple notes of some things you said. You used the word accountable. You said about guiding my family. You talked about taking care of the individual. Talk to me about, as the mentor, how those same things came through. And was there anything different that you learned when you were the mentor? Because obviously you got a lot of stripes. So, you were probably a mentor to quite a few young Marines.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. So, man, where to start? So let's say that at the different levels, right? As a gunnery sergeant, and I stepped into a role as drum major when I went to Lejeune. And before I even got there, they said, hey, you're going to be the hammer. Like, that's going to be your role when you get here. And so I was like, well, okay, I'm the bad guy, right? Everything bad is going to come from me. So that was kind of my role. So my mentorship with the individuals weren't exactly the same because of my role. Now I would always throw down the hammer, like, hey, you did something wrong. Boom. Hey, I'm going to throw the gauntlet down. I'm not going to let you do it, type of thing. But afterwards, I would always pull them back into the office. Even if I chewed their ass and I screamed and yelled at them, whatever the case may be, I'd pull them back in and I'd say, hey, do you understand why I was yelling at you? Do you understand why I was so upset? And that is one of those most crucial things that I learned, to get buy-in from those Marines, to get their buy-in back after you've chewed their butt. Because a lot of times people don't like that. So how do you get them back? Well, you have to mentor them and you have to coach them through it. So showing them exactly what they did wrong, showing them how to overcome that and move in a new direction. And probably the most important aspect of it is, before that person walked out of the room, I would always remind them, hey, this ass chewing is just a one-time event, right? I was upset about something that you did, so I yelled at you. I was like, you learned the lesson. You walk out of here, because when I walk out of this office, I've forgotten it. I'm moving on. So you need to do the same thing. Hold your head up high. Don't be upset, and just move on. Everybody makes mistakes, and that's part of life, and that's part of growing up. And that to me was incredibly important. And even as I even went up and you're having those one-on-one sessions or anything like that, that mentor session, there's so many things that can come out of that, if you're doing it correctly. One of the big things that I'll tell you is, that person, whoever you're mentoring, has to know that you genuinely care about them. Like, it's not just I have to do a counseling. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do this. They have to see that you care about the individual. They want to know that, and they can sniff it. They can sniff it out. They know if you're full of crap. So it's being able to identify that and be able to sit down and show them that you actually care about them. And it goes a long ways if you do.
So this is what I find is interesting, is that accountability. When I'm counseling somebody or mentoring somebody, I start to put myself in their shoes and thinking, like, well, am I really rocking the same line that I'm telling them? Am I practicing what I'm preaching? And what I find is that accountability becomes almost a 360-degree circle, because it kind of reminds you to not do those things that you're talking to them about. Or if you didn't talk to them about, maybe it would have just been, lost in memory, and you would have made that mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is a 360 thing. And I would always tell even young Marines, when I was a master gunny, I would go into the platoon and I would say, if you see me doing something wrong, I want you to come up and tell me that I messed up. I need to know that. Maybe I'm upset and I tell you to go away, and, but when I go home, I have to look myself in the mirror. I'm the one, I have to say if I actually did something wrong or not. I'm the one that has to be there. And, but it's great. I think it's important to have those junior Marines, those junior individuals, to be able to come up to you and tell you when you're messed up, and for me as the leader to know that, hey, I can't necessarily get all upset about it, depending on the tone and stuff like that. But, still, it's important for them to tell us when we mess up.
I love it. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit, and let's get towards the tail end of that incredible career you had. And first of all, did you go through TAP? Did you go through the Transition Assistance Program? I
did. So they changed the name of it. It's not TAP anymore, but I can't remember the name of it. But I did go through it. I wouldn't say that I got a whole lot out of it, but I did get some information out of it. Some contacts is probably the most things that I got out of it. But I wish it was more in depth, to be honest with you. I wish there was more to it.
It's funny that the common complaint we get, especially in the adult learning model, is we don't really learn really well. When I say I need a sip of water and they hook you up to a fire hydrant and turn it on full blast, you only remember a little bit. And TAP is certainly that experience where it's just ramming a ton of information. But you get done with TAP, you walk out. what did you have lined up when you got out and you finally changed from that warrior realm that you spent so many years, decades in, to now all of a sudden you got a beard, you're not wearing your uniform anymore. Talk to me about those first couple of weeks.
Oh man. So of course, I knew my time was coming. I knew a little over a year before I retired that I was retiring and when it was going to be. And I would tell anybody this, when it comes to those classes, the TAMPs, they always tell you to go at least 1 year before you get out. And I would say a year and a half before you get out, go to the first class. Because like you said, it is a fire hydrant and they're throwing so much stuff at you. So you're going to get a little bit out of it. Then go back again at the year mark and then, go back one more time. Now, I didn't do that. I kind of wish I had. But as I was transitioning, I knew I was getting out, and I talked to the wife. I was like, I really don't want to work. That was my thing. I didn't want to work. So, and she was like, yeah, I don't want you to work either. So then it was just a matter of what am I going to do? Because I've talked to so many different veterans that have gotten out, and they struggled so much in the trying to figure out their next step, their next move, and where they're going to work. What are they, how are they going to occupy their time? Those types of things. And that's when I started the podcast. So I started it before I even retired, knowing that was kind of the future for me. So when I got out, learning that I could sit and do nothing was a challenge for a little bit, just because I wasn't used to doing that. But then learning that it's okay. It's okay to be able to sit down and not do anything in retirement. So, that was fun. But also, hey, I got to figure something out with this podcast because I want to push it hard. So jumping into a whole new world that I knew nothing about.
So did anybody help you out along the way? Did anybody give you some tips, tricks, or recommendations?
So I did have a lot of different individuals giving me a lot of different information. So some of that stuff is, one, you got to keep yourself occupied. You got to have something to do because you're going to drive yourself or drive your family crazy. So that was one of the big ones they told me. Two is, you've got to make sure that you have a purpose in what you're doing. Whatever that purpose is, if it's going fishing and that's your priority and that's your purpose, then hey, go and do that purpose. For me, I turned that purpose into the podcast, and I just really concentrated on that. The other aspect of it is you lose that camaraderie, and that was tough for me to a certain extent. I didn't have my usual friends, and it wasn't the same. Even to the guys that were on active duty, if I reach back out to them to say, hey, look, we text back and forth or whatever, but they're like, well, I'm busy, man. I'm working. Like, I ain't got time for this, So that was a little more difficult, because we didn't have the same shared relationship at that point. And I kind of got down on myself about that as well. But I will say my saving grace, again, was this podcast, because I get to talk to veterans, usually about six different veterans a week, at least, which is incredible. How many
episodes are you up to now?
So, I'm getting close to 450 something, wow. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's getting up there. But that's great for me. It gives me a purpose, and I get to talk to veterans all the time, and like you, and get your expertise and get your knowledge, and and I just get to hear all these great stories. So I get a lot of that camaraderie through that. And then the other thing that I was told is find a veteran service organization and get involved. And I'd never really done that, talked to veteran service organizations beforehand, but whenever I got out, I finally decided, I probably should join. So I joined the Marine Corps League, like a good Marine should do. Joined the Marine Corps League, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And eventually I was able to, get an ambassadorship with the Marine Corps League, which is fantastic. And I'm doing more and more. I'm getting involved with the community where I live in the Marine Corps League. So, but being involved in something is important. And for those guys that are young, that are getting out, they're getting out, got to get another job. They got a family that they're raising. They don't have the luxury of being able to just sit on your butt if you want to. They've got to get out there. They got to work hard.
They don't have a pension.
You've got to have a way to get that camaraderie back, because talking to a civilian isn't the same as talking to another veteran, another Marine, so that's where those veteran service organizations, in my opinion, can be incredibly important. And we need to get those young guys into those veteran service organizations so they can have that same camaraderie that they had while they were in.
So when we look at the horrible epidemic, and it is an epidemic of veteran suicide, and by the way, the number is not 22 a day, it's closer to like 40 or 50 they've shown. There's usually three things that happen. The first thing is you lose your tribe. The next thing is you start to lose your purpose, and then you start to self-isolate, and then that usually ends up with you starting a Beretta or doing something really stupid with drugs or alcohol or whatever else. And when I was writing my notes down here, you mentioned, hey, I needed something to do. I needed a purpose, and I needed to get that camaraderie through the Marine Corps League and the other one. So, I mean, you hit all those things. You did the right things.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons that I heard in that conversation is that it wasn't something you just kind of tripped into. This was mentorship and coaching that you got from some of your other brothers that said, hey, Andrew, you better find something to do, even if it is fishing or a podcast or something. You just can't sit on the couch and do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If it wasn't for them and telling me that, there's no telling what would have happened. I'd have been out here flailing and trying to just survive probably. But, I'm doing pretty well. I can't complain. I got some good guidance.
Well, you got a beautiful smile on your face, and I think that's always the best way of telling if someone's doing well or not. In the military, it's very easy to be successful if you do what you're supposed to do. In the civilian world, it can be really difficult to be successful if you do what you're supposed to do. There is no real handbook, and there's things that are unfair. And sometimes the person gets the job, did not go in front of a promotion board and have their records books evaluated. They just happened to be friends with the boss, or they knew somebody, or they found something out. So it is different, and having those people that can help you mentor that. One of the things for me is I've gotten so much more out of being a mentor than being mentored. Now, my time in the Marine Corps was about as opposite and as small as what you did. I served for a couple of years during non-combat or non-deployment time. I was in the infantry, but never got deployed, never did anything. I got out because nothing was happening, and then I found these incredible mentors when I got out that helped guide me on my path to sales and to marketing and ultimately into entrepreneurship. And there's no way I could have done it without them. However, I still had that huge hole in my heart. That purpose still wasn't quite addressed yet. I still felt like I had unfinished business from the Marine Corps. And coming down here to Paris Island, I live in Hilton Head, right across the way from Paris Island, and getting on that base 2 to 3 times a week. I volunteer in about 4 different organizations on the base. Yeah. And just to be able to go back and talk to not just these young Marines, but my God, I was talking to a 1-star general, and he's asking me, hey, well, what do I do about this? And what about that? And at the end of the day, I still feel like I'm a young Lance Cooley, but I've got real world experience that I can help. And for me, that has become my purpose, is that mentorship and being able to serve. I get so frustrated when people say, thank you for your service. And again, I appreciate that. But my thing is, don't thank us, serve us. We served you, so now you serve us. And it can be something as simple as inviting you to your church, or getting you involved in the hobby, or trying to find something that, you're a Jeep guy and I've got a Jeep, and hey, I'm going to this Jeep rally, or I got these new mods for the doors or something like that. I mean, you get so much out of it in all those different sections of that mentorship journey.
Yeah. Oh, that's very true. You talked about when I'm mentoring somebody, I get so much more out of it. You're so right on that. I learned so much more toward the end of my career than I did at the beginning of my career, just from I have to mentor so many different people. So I was learning so much different things. I mean, it was just coming at me all the time. So I did. I mean, I learned so much more, and it was incredible. And if it wasn't for one, even the junior Marines, if it wasn't for those senior Marines, those mentors that had already retired, that's where you learn, And I've just been blessed. I've been lucky, and it's been exciting. So.
Well, Andrew, you're an amazing Marine. You're an amazing patriot. What you're doing now is so unbelievably important and needed. Want to just share a little bit about what we're doing here at the Warrior Legacy Network. We are trying to set up a formal mentorship process that starts about a year before you get out.
Nice.
Think of it as match.com, but for mentorship. So you fill out all the stuff you're interested in. So you may say, look, I really want to get into podcasting, or I want to learn to be a music teacher, or I want to just fish, or I want a job. It doesn't matter. It could be about a whole bunch of different other things. Actually talking to a Marine right now that's probably getting med stepped out for alcohol addiction. And the Marine Corps is going to kick him out. And my God, if that poor guy doesn't have somebody on the outside that's going to pick him up and take him to those AA meetings and be that sponsor for him, he's going to be in bad shape. And I think it's so important that, our government, especially the military, they break us. Different levels, emotionally, physically, could be a whole different areas. Sometimes they don't manifest till 30, 40 years later.
Yeah.
They're not going to fix it. It's up to us to fix those issues that came out there, and doing the things like you're doing with the Lost Art and these other areas. So that's an area that we're hoping through this platform that matches these mentors up, runs through it, and then ultimately starts to have these regional groups and meetups. And again, not in competition with the Marine Corps League or the American Legion or the local state VA. It's complementing it. It's helping to bring more people. So you can tell me about the Marine Corps League, which I didn't even know about until about 10 years ago, to be perfectly honest. I've been on the Marine Corps for 30 years. I didn't know even there was a Marine Corps League till 10 years ago. And having someone hold me by the hand and say, bro, we're going here Friday night. If you never want to show up again, that's fine, but you're going with me for the first meeting. And I loved it because I got to meet these Korean War vets, and it was so funny listening to the banter between the Vietnam guys and the Korean War guys talking about who's the more of the badass and this type of stuff. But I could just sit in that room and listen to those guys go back and forth with each other for hours.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, there was something that you hit on that I kind of wanted to talk about, but that mentorship that you're talking about with going back a year before they get out and finding somebody that's in the realm of what it is that you want to do. Having that network is incredible. And man, kudos to you guys. That's going to be fantastic. You got to get that plugged in 100% with the Marine Corps at least, but all the different veteran or all the different branches of service. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Well, and I'll share with you, it's been a little frustrating. We've got a lot of time up on Capitol Hill over the last month or two dealing with Veterans Affairs, the Senate side, the House side, individual members. And there's there's not a synergy between the Senate and House Armed Service Committee and the Senate and the House Veteran Affairs Committee. The Armed Services Committee's focus, and rightfully should be, is the pointy end of the spear. The last thing they want to do is put resources away from the pointy end of the spear into helping people get out when we're having a problem right now with retention, with recruitment. And then the VA comes in and has to fix all the shit that they just broke before we got out, right? So how can we get that process? And what I'm hoping we can convince, and we're going to need the help of you and your listeners and everyone else out there, is to understand that one of the greatest recruiting tools and retention tools we can have for armed services is our fellow veterans, is to know what they can do when they get out, because no one's going to be a better recruiter than you talking to your grandchild or your neighbor or your cousin or something like that. And if we can show them, hey, when you join as an 18-year-old, not just for those 4 to 6 years or 30 years that you're in, but for the rest of your life, you're now part of a warrior network that looks out for you, that's going to help you, that's going to do that type of stuff. I really do feel that will impact the recruiting process. And on the retention side, knowing that, hey, whenever you're ready to tap out, we're going to be out there on the other side, welcome you, just like we did when you first came in.
Yeah, man, I like it. I think it should happen. I don't know. I get the tip of the spear, and they're worried about retention and those types of things. But in my opinion, somebody gets out and they go on and do bigger and better things. And if we can help them into those bigger and better things, that's going to be an even more powerful tool for somebody else to get motivated, because, hey, I learned a lot of these traits, a lot of these principles in the Marine Corps that help me succeed on the outside. And the more individuals that you get that are super successful like that are preaching that they learned it in the Marine Corps, well, all those young guys are going to be like, oh, well, shoot, I'm going to join the Marine Corps first. So I think they're going to get it back in return.
I think one of the greatest gifts that we get from our time in service is making us great Americans. And being a great serviceman is great, but when you come out on the other side, for the most part, you come out as a great American. You're going to stand a little taller when the national anthem's being played. You're going to pick up the trash on the side of the road that then instead of just walk by it, you're going to have that sense of purpose and do something, because as great warriors and great servicemen we are, that wear the sacred cloth of the U.S. military, it's really our country is what makes us so incredible. And hopefully we can be those leaders and those mentors that go out into the civilian realm and help make it a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a guest on recently. Tina Harvey is her name, but she's worked with the PR for the Marine Corps League. And she was talking about the difference between patriotism and Americanism. And
Interesting.
I had never heard the term Americanism before, but the way she described it was patriotism is, I'm going to put the flags out for the 4th of July. I'm going to, celebrate those big events or whatever that make our nation great. And then Americanism is, I'm going to put my flag out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and I'm going to support it, everything that we do, and I'm going to be excited and motivated about local stuff, all the way up to the federal level. But that's Americanism. And I was like, that's a really cool way of looking at it. I'd never heard that before. But I hope everybody has Americanism,
Well, and what I tell, I have the honor of pretty much every week going down to Parris Island, talking to the graduating series of Marines. And I talk about honor, courage, and commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about, what we are as defenders of freedom. Freedom is a very ugly thing. Freedom is you willing to give your life and your comfort for somebody's ability to do something that you completely disagree with.
Right.
And I used to get so angry when I'd see protesters and this whole, King's Day thing. Like we saw them down here driving, and I just wanted to flip them the bird. But then you know what? I smiled when I went by, because even though I completely disagree with those people that were politicking and doing that, I love the right that they have to do that, because they're talking about no kings, but yet if we had a king, you wouldn't be able to protest. They'd cut your head off, right?
It's true.
So it's kind of funny the way that's all coming together. But that is Americanism, is standing up for people's right to do things that really upset you and giving them the right to do it.
Yeah. And, I think that's what makes us great is you can have different points of view, and you can, even get mad about your different points of view. As long as you don't take it too far, I suppose. There's a limit. You don't want to go out and shoot somebody because of it.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Free speech doesn't give you the ability to do anything. And also free speech doesn't stop my ability for free speech. You can't tell me what I can and cannot say. What happens a lot in political correctness and other areas that you try to control my speech because you're offended. But agree.
Yeah. It's a very interesting times that we're in. Not just our nation, but globally, it's very interesting as well. But having reach out to support for the military going out, fantastic thing. The veteran community, I think we do a pretty good job of supporting one another. But one of the places that I find that we fail miserably at, and I am included in this, is we don't reach out to other people to ask for help for us, the individual, right? And we shoot ourselves in the foot because we want people to reach out to us for help. Hey, I'll help anybody, right? They reach out to me. But for me to reach out to somebody and ask for help, That's tough. So I think that's one of the hardest things that I see in the veteran community is reaching out. You got to reach out for help, and it's hard. It's hard.
So I'm going to conclude with this story, and it fits in exactly what you're talking about. I got involved with this amazing organization down here in the low country of South Carolina called OPFOB, Operation Patriots Forward Operating Base. And it was really designed, the founder, J.R. Brown, he started the company. He lost a lot of his fellow Marines in combat. He lost a lot when he worked at Blackwater. But then when he got out, he lost even more to suicide. And it was this whole sense of, again, that self-isolation, that lack of purpose in those other areas. So he created a space that is like the Disneyland for veterans. It's got, we've got sporting clays, we've got 5 stands, we've got 500-meter ranges, we've got 4 fishing ponds, cabins, side-by-sides, you name it. And what's interesting is when Afghanistan fell, we really wanted to make sure we were supporting all those vets that worked in Afghanistan that felt like, that knew the way that we left that was just horrible. But not one of them called up into our numbers or hotlines. It was almost all the Vietnam era vets, because they could see that same helicopter over Kabul was the same helicopter that was hovering over Saigon as they were evacuating the embassy there.
Yeah.
And when you go there on our Saturday coffee and camaraderie, we call it, we now have way more Vietnam era veterans than we do Afghanistan era veterans now. And they've all become the mentors. They lead Bible studies, AA groups, they teach fishing and everything. And that's when I realized that even though they've become the mentors, they have found a new sense and purpose. And some of them are finally coming to terms with their PTSD 30, 40, 50 years later. Right. Through being mentors to these other young Marines that are going through those dark times. Not Marines, anybody, any branch of service. Yeah. And we also included to law enforcement and firefighters too. But that really opened my eyes that being the mentor sometimes is even more therapeutic than being the mentee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right and all that. And that OPFOB that's down there, incredible. You guys do incredible things with that. But how do you get this I say younger generation, I don't know if I'm part of it or not, but these young guys that are getting out, how do you get them to want to reach out and ask? Well,
sometimes you don't reach out. Sometimes you pull, sometimes it's a push, sometimes it's a pull, sometimes it's grabbing them and saying, hey, come with me. You've gained a little bit of weight. You're starting to get into some bad stuff. You're doing whatever else. I wish somebody would have snapped me around. I gained 50 pounds 6 months after I got out. Yeah. And I wish I could have found a group of Marines that I could have PT'd with and anything else. But, I think it's not necessarily a responsibility for the mentor. It's when you're ready for the mentor arrives. And sometimes that mentor has to pull you out of that too. And it works both ways there. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, AJ, it's been a true honor to get an opportunity to interview the master. I aspire to get just a fraction of what you're doing in the podcast community, but more importantly, the support you're doing for our fellow veterans, giving them a voice, giving them an opportunity to talk. And I look forward to our paths crossing again soon here, and hope we can get your continued help as we start to nurture and grow the Warrior Legacy Network.
Absolutely. And count me in. Whatever you need, boss. I'm here.
All right, brother. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
If you've worn the uniform and figured out how to make the jump into civilian life, or if you're getting ready to PCS to the civilian world, there's somebody right now who needs your story. Go to warriorleader.us/mentorship. Share your journey. Help the next one in line. That's what this is all about.